Okay, we're going to keep factoring. Remember last time we talked about factoring out the greatest common factor and then factoring by grouping. The factoring by grouping, you had to have 4 or more terms. Today we're going to factor trinomials, 3 terms. And the way I'm going to do that is I'm really going to make it have 4 terms. Then I can use my factoring by grouping, right? So our method is, first of all, I got to make sure it's in the right format if it has 3 terms. So I can have variables on both ends, but if I do, they have to have an exponent of 2. And then whatever variables I have, there has to be a matching one in the middle. Okay, so I got to make sure it's that format. In other words, if this looked like this, I would say, oh, that, and because there's not a common factor, they don't all have an x, 3 and 8 and 14 don't have anything in common, I'd say I'm done with that. That's prime. Okay, so make sure it's the right format. Now, with that being said, what I need to do is I'm going to go over to the side and I'm going to find my 2 special numbers. And I find them by whatever 3 times 8 is, so that's 24. So these numbers have to multiply and give 24 and add to give 14. And add to give 14. Okay, so I'm just going to go down my list. Some of us are going to be better at this than others, or be able to do it quicker than others, because some of you might know, oh, that's 12 and 2. If I really know my multiplication tables, I know that's 12 and 2. If we have a little bit of trouble finding these numbers, just go down all of your factors. So I'm just going to start with 1. Okay, well, 1 and 24. 1 times 24 is 24, but 1 plus 24 is 25. So that's not it. Okay, let's do 2. 2 times 12 is 24, and 2 plus 12 is 14. Oh, that's my numbers. Right? So I'm just going to go down all the list and find the pairs of factors. And I need the ones that multiply to give 24 and add to give 14. Now, once I find the 2 numbers, I'm going to rewrite this problem and make it, instead of plus 14x, I'm going to make it plus 12x plus 2x plus 8. It's still the same thing. I just changed this to 12x plus 2x. If I were simplifying this and put it back together, it's the same thing. By the way, once you find these 2 numbers, it doesn't matter which order you write them in. It will factor, right, if you can find these 2 numbers. If I go down the list of all the factors of 24 and none of them add to give 14, then it's prime. It doesn't factor. Okay, but now look what happened. I made it have 4 terms, so I can factor it by grouping. These first 2 have a common factor of 3x. Okay, and that leaves x plus 4. Plus sign, so no worries. These 2 have a common factor of 2, and that leaves x plus 4. Now they both have an x plus 4, so that can come out. And what's left is 3x plus 2. And don't forget, you can always check your factoring. 3x squared plus 2x plus 12x plus 8. And if we add that together, we get 3x squared plus 14x plus 8. This is it factored. It all rests on being able to find these 2 special numbers, I'm going to call them. All right, let's try that again. This time, it is in the right format. I have an n squared and then an n. right? So I'm going to see if there are two numbers that multiply to give 10 times negative 1. It's always this times this, 10 times negative 1. And they have to add to give this number, 3. So keep up with your signs. That's really important. Some of you may know these numbers are already 5 and negative 2. If not, go down your list. Now, if this number is negative, one of the numbers I'm multiplying has to be negative. So I could try negative 1 and 10, but negative 1 plus 10 is not 3. I don't care what it is, it's not 3. Okay, so then I'm going to go negative 2 and 5. Oh, look, that's 3. Those are the numbers I need. Okay, so that means I'm going to go back over here and I'm going to change 3n to negative 2n plus 5n. And by the way, if I have a choice, I am going to, if there's only one negative, I'm always going to put it first so that I don't have to factor that negative out. That's where we usually make mistakes. Now, all I did was change 3n to negative 2n plus 5n. It makes it have 4 terms. So we can factor it by grouping. Okay, I can take out a 2n from the first ones. Okay, and so that leaves 5n minus 1. Plus sign, so no worries. Oh, these don't have anything in common. If there's nothing else, don't forget there's always a 1, right? I can multiply 1 by anything. Oh, and that's exactly what I needed because now look, it is 5n minus 1 that they have in common. So I'm going to bring that out and then leave 2n plus 1. And there's my 2 factors. 2 things multiplied together instead of 3 things being added and subtracted. Let's try it again. Okay, I've got a g squared and a plain g, so it's good. Doesn't mean it will factor, but it means I can try to factor it. I need 2 numbers that multiply to give what? Yep, 20 times negative 1, so negative 20. And they have to add to give negative 1. Remember, if there's not a number there, it's understood to be a 1, so don't forget your sign, negative 1. Okay, some of you may know what those numbers are. If not, let's just go down the list of our factors. So I have negative 1 times 20, but if I add those together, that's not negative 1. So I have negative 2 times 10, that's not negative 1. Let's see, 3 doesn't go into it, 4 does. Negative 4 times 5. Hey, look, this tells me I have the right number, it just has the wrong sign. Okay, I have the right numbers, they have the wrong sign. So I need it to be a 4 and a negative 5. Now when I add them, it gives me negative 1. I gotta pay attention to those signs. Be very careful. Okay, so now I can just rewrite the problem. 20g squared minus 5g plus 4g. You can put that in any order, right? I just changed minus g to minus 5g plus 4g. The rest of it stays the same, and now I can factor it by grouping. I can take out a 5g from these first two. We're just going to leave 4g minus 1. If there's no common factor, it's understood to be a 1. Right? If there's nothing else, there's always a 1. Oh, now look, they both have 4g minus 1, so I'm going to bring that out. And then what's left is 5g plus 1 and the other factor. Okay. Now, do not forget, you really look for a greatest common factor first. So look at this one. The numbers have a common factor and the variables. Plus, if it didn't, I couldn't factor this thing. It's not the right format, right? I'd have to have an even exponent on both ends. Even. And half of it sitting right there. So that's a clue. Oh, wait, before I do anything with this, I've got to get my greatest common factor out of there. So all the numbers are divisible by 2. And they all have at least an x cubed. Okay, so 12x to the 5th, factor out 2x cubed. That's going to leave 6x squared. 10x to the 4th, factor out 2x cubed. That's going to leave plus 5x. And then minus 6, right? Okay, so anytime one of our factors wind up with an exponent bigger than 1 inside it, I got to keep trying to factor it. I got to keep trying to factor this thing. And because it's a trinomial, I'm looking for my 2 numbers. 2 numbers that multiply to give negative 36 and add to give 5. Okay, once again, one of them's got to be negative. So negative 1 and 36, not 5. Negative 2 and 18, not 5. Negative 3 and 12, not 5. Negative 4 and 9, hey, is 5. Found it. Now, don't forget this factor. These are factors you already found. So don't forget them. Bring them along with you. And I know I'm about to put a bunch of parentheses in there doing that factoring, so maybe I don't have to, but just to help me keep all my parentheses straight, maybe I'll change that to a bracket. Okay, now I'm just going to rewrite the problem and change 5x to minus 4x plus 9x. Right? So I still have 6x squared minus 4x plus 9x minus 6. And now I'm going to factor by grouping. Right, I'm going to group these 2 and these 2. So don't forget your 2x cubed. You've already found some factors. Now I can take out a 2x from those first 2 terms. And it's going to leave 3x minus 2. Plus sign, so no worries. I can divide a 3 out of both of those. And that's going to leave 3x minus 2. So now I notice that, oh, here's another factor. I'm going to bring it out with these other factors I already found. Right? So 2x cubed. And then if I bring out that 3x minus 2, so if I bring these 2 out, what's left inside this parenthesis is 2x plus 3. Anytime you wind up with an exponent bigger than 1, you got to keep seeing if it will factor. It might not, but you got to check it and see if it'll factor. Okay, one more. Let's see. No common factor. Don't forget that step. So it's a trinomial, means I'm looking for my special numbers. Numbers that multiply to give negative 30, while at the same time adding to give negative 7. Right? This times this is where the negative 30 came from. So negative 1 times 30 doesn't add to give 7. Negative 2 times 15 is not 7. Negative 3 and 10. Oh, look. 10 minus 3 is 7. That's the right number. Wrong sign. So I need 3 negative 10. Right? So if you're careful with your signs, it'll tell you. All right. So I'm going to rewrite this problem. 6a squared minus 10ab plus 3ab. All I'm doing is changing minus 7ab into two terms. The rest of it stays the same, because now I can factor it by grouping. I can take out a 2 and an a from these first two terms. That leaves 3a minus 5b. Okay, got a plus sign, so no worries. I can take out a b out of those two, and that's going to leave 3a minus 5b. Now the 3a minus 5b is what they have in common, so I can bring that out. 3a minus 5b. And what's left, if I take these out, is 2a plus b. Factoring trinomials using grouping. Okay, once again, after each section on this factoring, try to get pretty good at it before you go to the next. Okay, let me know if you need anything.